let's go, come on, let's go, John, yes, Malcolm, yes, hello Sam, hello, David, hello Chris, yes, hi Rachel, John, good to see you, Gary, how you doing? So I'm going to take you through a few things today. Obviously, you have some little workbooks. I do recommend that you open the first page and it's got a blank sheet for note taking. I do recommend you use your pen and you take some notes today because we're going to go through quite a few things, but there'll be something that gets said that you see on a slide that maybe you pick up from somebody else that really resonates with you, that you need to stick to. And the only way we're going to remember stuff when we take it away is by writing it down. So if you leave with a blank book, it's a bit stupid. Make sure you've got some notes today. There will be questions to answer anyway, which are going to help you. But honestly, take some notes today. Something you hear and go, oh, I like that. Take it as a note. Take it down. So as we start this first part, welcome, first of all, to the fifth one. I'm quite excited about this. These are going to go on into double figures and beyond, I'm sure. Fifth one we've ever done here. First time in a new venue as well. We've done South Shields, Sea Hotel and Little Haven all the time, but I just thought mix it up a little bit, change it up, make it a little bit different. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is anxiety, because it's a massive subject and topic within the world. It's something that every single one of you will experience at some point, whether that be in a really negative way or actually in a positive way. And you might be confused as to how anxiety can be positive. Well, I'll tell you as we go on here. But it actually is fairly positive emotion if we can see it that way. Now, nervousness, anxiety, worrying, overthinking, it's kind of all the same thing we get, whether we experience, sweaty palms, elevated heart rate, the want to run away or get away. But at its core, if I was to be asked what anxiety is, this is how I'd sum it up in a phrase or a sentence. I would say unmanaged thoughts projecting into a fear-based future. Now that's a little bit deep. What it basically means is that every bit of anxiety that we have and we experience comes from our thinking. Can't come any other way. We have a thought before it happens. Maybe it's, I'm overwhelmed. I'm not sure if I can handle this. What if it all goes wrong? Or probably the most common one, what will other people think and what will other people say? Big anxiety for many of us, right? But the problem is it's the thoughts that we can't help but have. The human brain, according to brain scientists, has around 60,000 thoughts a day. That's quite overwhelming in itself, just that number, right? In a 24-hour period, the human brain has around 60,000 thoughts as a minimum, right? So it's no wonder that we get trapped into overthinking, anxious, worry, whatever. But the projecting into a fear-based future is the important part to remember here, because every bit of anxiety you have is usually always thinking about what could happen, what might happen. It may be from an experience you've had in the past that you think, what if it happens again? It's not about the past because the past has happened. The thought is always about the future. And it's always based on fear. It's always based on worry. It's always based on overwhelm, something usually negative. That's what we tend to attach 99% of our anxiety to, is something negative. So just remember that. Unmanaged thoughts projecting into a fear-based future. Now, I was always explained mental health like this, and I think if we can simplify mental health, then we can manage it much better. When we complicate things, it gives us excuses, it makes it much harder to take on board. We kind of get overwhelmed and then we just go from one thing to the next, or we end up just sedating and distracting from things. So I was always described that depression is past-based thinking, fear of the past. So if you find someone who is very depressed, you'll tend to find that they don't have anything to look forward to. They're quite low. It's always that they're living in the past on what was. They tend to not be excited about much in the future. And I was always told that anxiety is future thoughts, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Depression being based in the past, low, nothing to look forward to or be excited about. Anxiety, too far in the future. Too much overwhelm, too much worry. So the sweet spot, before I go into that, is you've got to understand depression, anxiety, mental health in itself is all just energy. It's just either low or high. Depression is a low level of energy, right? Anxiety is a high level of energy, obviously, because you want to run or fight or flight, escape, right? It's a high level of energy. You want to do something about it. Depression is where you sit still. You don't want to do anything. You want to hide away, get back into the blanket, sit down, whatever it may be, right? So the sweet spot is in the middle. It's the now, present moment. That's where the best, most calm and focused energy and the most empowering energy is right now. If I was to put an example of this, right this second, you're paying attention to me, you're in a room full of people who you trust, you feel probably quite confident and calm, even though it might be the first time here for some of you, and you might have had a little bit worried before you came in, and you came to a big group of maybe some people you haven't met before, or met so infrequently. But right now, this very moment, as I'm talking about this, and you're listening, it's nothing to be worried about, right? Nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be worrying about the past. There's nothing to be scared of. Like, you're quite empowered and calm right now. Now, the problem is, how do we stay there? It's very difficult with life and stress and ongoings, but we'll go into that a little bit. But think about the power in right now. And I'm going to tell you 3 ways in which you can change anxiety into your superpower and change it into something completely different. Now, first off, we have to change our perspective on it. That means how we see it, what it means to us. So if we were to talk about anxiety being fear from the future, like I explained just a couple of slides ago, there's a few acronyms for fear that you may have heard before, and you might have heard this one, and I love this one. It's probably one of the best ones out there. False evidence appearing real. That's what fear is mostly. False evidence appearing real, especially when it comes to a lot of anxiety. I mean, how many times have you had a thought, an overwhelming thought about something going wrong, and it never even happened? How many times have you had a thought about someone thinking a certain thing about you? You were adamant that they thought that, and they've been telling everybody that, and you found out they couldn't give 2 shits, and they've never even been that bothered. You were like, fuck no, the amount of energy I spent on that. False evidence. But it appears real. So think about that. That's fear in itself. False evidence appearing real. And that can be very fucking powerful. Very powerful. So overpowering that it just stunts us. It completely stops us in our tracks, right? So you've got to change your perspective of it. But here's a great one. There's a quote by a guy called Gay Hendricks who wrote the Big Leap book. It was one of the first ever personal development books I ever read. And it was about changing from making a big leap. And at the time I was changing from a plumber to become a trainer and a coach and all this. And he said, what if fear was just excitement without the breath? What if fear was just excitement? Because physiologically, massive excitement and anxiety are very much exactly the same thing. Like when I was out there and I could hear the music playing and I was about to come out, I was starting to get anxious. But actually I was really excited. It was the same thing. I had the elevated heart rate. I had the sweaty palms. Me breathing was getting off. Obviously 30 push-ups put me breathing up a little bit. But regardless, I was still getting the same symptoms, the exact same things. But really I was excited, right? So what if anxiety was fear? Sorry, what if it was excitement just without the breath? And you just didn't know how to handle it. It's an interesting way to look at it, right? Very interesting way to look at it. Now, keeping with the perspective, I love this diagram. I love a good visual. And this is just fantastic. It's simply explaining the process of emotions we go through when we're looking to go from our comfort zone to a new level of growth and progress. Now, every one of you has a desire to grow, otherwise you wouldn't be in this room. You would not be here right now unless you had a strong will to get better and experience something more, right? Whether it be insightful, with your mental health, with your mindset, or with your body, or just with your life in general. You wanted to get further ahead, right? But just have a look at this diagram. The comfort zone, as we know, is where we feel comfortable and safe and in control. It's where we mostly stick to. But as we know, everything that we want is outside of the comfort zone. We all know that. We get that advice since we're like a teenager, right? But it's interesting to look at these zones that we actually have to go through. And anxiety plays a key role in one of them, and it's the fear zone. Straight away, when we do something different, that's unique to us, that is new, we experience the lack of self-confidence. Because how can we be confident in something we've never done before? It's almost impossible, right? Because confidence comes from competence, from doing something enough times so that you feel confident at it. You're also, when you are in the fear zone and you've stepped out your comfort zone, you are affected by the opinions of others. And that's why often when people start something new, they get too much chitter-chatter from those around them and they quit and they stop and they allow the opinions to affect them too much. But this is also where you find excuses. Not right now, just too much time, just not right, a lot of shit going on at work, a lot of stuff going on at home. We'll get all the excuses, we'll find them, right? That's the fear zone. But if we are willing to push past that, what happens, and we know this, we are living examples of this. For example, when you started training, you were scared at the start of something new. What if you were the slowest, your body couldn't do it? What if you got hurt? What if you looked stupid, all the rest? What if you couldn't keep it up? What if somebody blamed you or criticized you? We all had it. But when you push through that, you get into the learning zone. What's interesting about that zone is that is when you expand your comfort zone. In terms of what was once uncomfortable becomes comfortable. And that's where most of you are at right now, especially with your exercise and stuff. It was uncomfortable at first, but now you're actually quite comfortable doing it. You also have to deal with new challenges and new problems, which is a good thing. And you are understanding in that area that this is meant to happen. It's not meant to go perfect, actually. Ooh, this is interesting. I'm supposed to have challenge. I'm supposed to have some kind of pushback. And then eventually what happens is you get to the growth. This is where the result comes. This is where you're achieving objectives. You think, fucking hell, I've passed that milestone. I've achieved that goal. Or you think, actually, I'm quite confident and I believe myself much more now because I can see evidence of it appearing real, and it is. It's not false, it's actually happening. This is where you find a little bit more of your purpose, for example. But it's interesting because in order to go from comfort to growth, it's not about just doing one thing, achieving it and getting through it. You have to go through the fear. You have to push through the learn and understand, and that sometimes takes time. Now, if I was to put a time on these, I have no idea. It depends on you. Some people could spend 6 weeks in this fear zone. Others could spend a day until they get here and go, holy shit, you know what? That's amazing. And then they start to feel it. Right? But we all have to go through this process from left to right. And if just a little bit of elaboration on what those zones are, when you are too comfortable, you don't progress. Which means when we choose comfort food, when we choose, being in bed too long, when we choose the easy way, we end up, negating our progress and we don't move forward, right? Fear is this zone here, potential pathway to progress. So I've classed that out as potential, as in depending on how long you are willing to push through it for. Because some people will step out their comfort zone, shit, nah. So it's only potential, isn't it? It's only potential. Oh yeah, I'll try. Oh fuck, not today. Yeah. Learning is just insights to new levels of thinking. Think about that. That's learning. Just insights. You're going to get a lot of insights today. We're kind of in the learning zone right now. Yeah? And when you leave today, if you apply what you've learned and you take lots of notes and you actually take it in your life, you'll get growth from it. And growth, another way to say it is progress. Another way to say that is happiness. And that's what we're all seeking. Regardless of what we choose to get it, that's what we're all seeking at all times, is more happiness from whatever area. But the only way we get that is through growth. And a reminder that anxiety lives in fear. It's the zone. You're going to experience it. Now, this is where it gets a little bit exciting, I think. Understanding that actually anxiety plays a role in your growth because it is the emotion of growth. Without it, you would not grow. Majority of 99% of people, when they're going through the fear zone, unless they have severe emotional problems, they have something wrong with them, will go through anxiety. It's normal because it is the emotion of growth. It's natural to feel that worry, that fear, that overwhelm, that, oh, what if? Or that people's opinions, etc. What if it goes wrong? What if I can't handle it? It's natural to feel that. And happiness is only attained by growth and progress. So we must be willing to push through anxiety in order to understand we need it to grow. It's normal. It's normal to experience. So, very, very simple phrase right there. When we understand, we fear less. This is what I'm trying to get through to you today, is a little bit more understanding of your emotions, a little bit more understanding of anxiety and mental health, a little bit more understanding of why we do what we do. And when we think, that's what I'm experiencing, that's why I do that, that's why I feel that way, there's less fear. We understand, we're able to go, I know what I need to do now. The next thing is using facts over feelings and data over drama. It's a concept that I was introduced to many years ago, and it's changed my life massively. Because anxiety uses what ifs and what whens in the brain. Like, again, false evidence appearing real. What if they say this? What if that happens? What if I can't keep it up? What if this goes all wrong? What if people judge me? What if I look stupid? All the rest, right? So when we introduce data, like facts, your brain can't argue with that. Like, if something is fact, your brain can't argue with that. Like, the Second World War fucking happened. We can't say, no, it didn't. It fucking did. It's factually there, right? But this is the level of facts that we need to be about ourselves, right? Because facts overpower feelings. And data overrides drama, which means if we can get more factual, data, analytic with this, we can get rid of a lot of the overwhelm. This is massive when, say, you're on a weight loss journey, for example, and you have periods where you have weeks and nothing happens. And you think, it's not working, this is shit, I need to do something else, nothing's happening, it's fucking crap, I'm shit, the world's shit, no diet works, I've tried everyone. Well, hang on, what else has happened? What's the data? Rather than what the scales are saying, what else is happening? And there's a few questions that I'll bring in to elaborate on this as well. But we need to start asking what has went okay. Like factually, what's went okay? Let's use the weight loss example. Well, I've been more consistent with my exercise than ever this year. Right, great. What else has happened? Like, how are your clothes feel? Oh, well, your clothes feel looser. Oh, brilliant, right. So what about your performance? Can you hold a plank for much longer than what you could before? Can you do more push-ups than you've been able to when you start? Yeah, much better. How are you sleeping? Oh, well, I'm definitely sleeping better. Right, okay. How's your sex life? Oh, well, it's quite much more frequent than usual. All right, so, but we negate everything because of one number on the scales. And a lot of people go through this because it's just we take one point of data and think, that's it. My happiness rides on that. Rather than think, actually, what did we achieve? What were the top 5 wins of the week? This is why I ask you for your top 3 in our group every week. Ask you for 3 things. What am I doing with that? I'm asking for data. So your brain doesn't go, it's been a shit week again, fuck it all, not working, fucking can't be arsed, where's the fucking cake? Give me some fucking pizza. I'm getting fucked up tonight, fuck it all, fuck the world. Hey, I've been there too. But now I just don't allow those emotions to get in because I'm like, what went all right? What could I do better, right? What's different? How far along are you actually? Because this is where the data comes in. Like, compared to when you started, if you were to just focus on weight, for example, and you negated everything else along the journey, you're missing so many points of happiness, it's unbelievable. You're making yourself miserable by just focusing on one point. Like, perfectionists struggle massively when everything needs to be perfect. I would describe myself as a completionist. I just like to complete things, get them done, move on. If it's not perfect, it's not fucking perfect. It doesn't need to be. If I make mistakes along the way, I fucking make mistakes. I'll learn something from them. Great. So, here's a couple of questions. Great. You might want to jot a couple of these down. How long can you hold a plank compared to what you used to? How much has your energy changed since you started? Your general day-to-day energy, your enthusiasm for life. How many more times have you trained this year compared to last, or done such and such compared to before starting? How many less takeaways have you eaten compared to what you usually would? And how much money have you saved as a result of that? Imagine if you work that out. I've said the word anxiety so much, I'm starting to feel a little bit fucking anxious. I've given so much energy to this word, right, that it's starting to become a little bit more anxious to us, right? Because whatever we focus on, whatever we put energy into, will expand. So eventually, the reason why I use the word anxiety is because obviously I use it a lot in trying to help people who use that terminology. But ultimately, I want to stop talking about it because all it's doing is magnifying the problem. Eventually, we want to stop talking about it. Because when we talk about it, we just magnify it. Anxiety, worry. It's just a bit of a nasty word, really. Eventually, we want to stop talking about it. Eventually, we want to stop reading about it because we can overanalyze things far too much. When it comes to anxiety and negative things, we can look, what's wrong with me? Why am I so anxious all the time? Well, Google doctor. Ever done that? Found out you're dying? Google, oh, I'm worried. Oh, fuck me, I'm dying. I have a spot on my arm. Oh my God, I've got cancer. Fucking hell. Eventually, we need to stop listening about anxiety. We hear about this podcast about it all over, and I think it's great, and it's great to help people. But if we keep magnifying and putting energy on a certain word and feeling, we'll keep feeling it. It's there, it's present, it dominates a lot of our thoughts. Here's a hard one to swallow. Sometimes we need to stop blaming the anxiety. It's something that we all experience. But a lot of people say, I can't because I'm an anxious person. That's an identity that you've seeked out, that you attach to, that makes you feel who you are. Anxiety is an emotion. It's not who you are. We have to stop blaming that part of us as to why we can't step forward. This is a lot of people's problem. I'm an anxious person, therefore I can't move forward in life. Well, that's not necessarily true. You're just adopting that identity of being an anxious person. You have to stop blaming that and understand it's part of our growth. And eventually, it's a strange one, this, but stop believing in anxiety, but instead believe anxiety is unmanaged energy, which it is. It's a force of energy, and it's high energy. We talked about this at the start. Depression is low energy. Anxiety is high energy. It's actually just your body producing energy, and you don't know how to deal with it. It's a much simpler way to look at anxiety, anxious thoughts, worry, overwhelm. It's just extra energy that we can't quite deal with. And we all have our ways to blow off steam. Obviously, we know exercise and, maybe journaling, meditation, cold therapy, positive stuff. But we also know drink and drugs and smoke and all the other stuff that can sedate as well and get rid of it temporarily. We know what's good, we know what's bad. It's not rocket science. But here's an example. And shortly we're going to be going into actually putting this into action for you guys as well. But I want to give you a genuine example of changing that energy into something positive. So how we do that is we look back. We look back, not in a depressed way, but we look back in a present-focused way to see what went well. This is why every week I ask you for 3 wins. It's been your top 3 wins. Now, I do this personally every night. There's inside this journal and planner, there's 5 wins of the day, and every week there's 5 wins of the week. And I share mine in the group every week. You'll know this. I'll give you me 5 wins, right? So the way to channel that anxious energy more positively is get present by looking back to what's worked well. What's been your wins, your successes, your good things that have happened this year. So I'm going to share with you my 15, and then you're going to do yours. I hope you all brought your phones because you're going to need it shortly. But I'll tell you mine, and I'll tell you what this means as well as we go on. Nervousness, anxiety, worrying, overthinking, sweaty palms, elevated heart rate, the want to run away or get away. If I was to be asked what anxiety is, I would say unmanaged thoughts projecting into a fear-based future. What it basically means is that every bit of anxiety that we have and we experience comes from our thinking. I'm not sure if I can handle this. What if it all goes wrong? What will other people think and what will other people say? In a 24-hour period, the human brain has around 60,000 thoughts as a minimum, right? So it's no wonder that we get trapped into overthinking, anxious, worry, whatever. Because every bit of anxiety you have is usually always thinking about what could happen, what might happen. It may be from an experience you've had in the past that you think, what if it happens again? I think if we can simplify mental health, then we can manage it much better. When we complicate things, it gives us excuses, it makes it much harder to take on board. We kind of get overwhelmed and then we just go from one thing to the next, or we end up just sedating and distracting from things. Depression, anxiety, mental health in itself is all just energy. It's just either low or high. Depression is a low level of energy, right? Anxiety is a high level of energy, obviously, because you want to run or fight or flight, escape, right? So the sweet spot is in the middle. It's the now, present moment. That's where the best, most calm and focused energy and the most empowered energy is right now.
It makes me want to enjoy my life and want to be excited about it even more and more, because I think life's too short. Like, I've got this point in my life and I'm really happy and I just want to keep being happy. And I don't mean like you can't say I'm happy all the time, but I mean like have some excitement, have something to look forward to all of the time. Focus on something good. Again, the reminders to live and value your future enough to make a difference now.
People are not broken. There's not necessarily something wrong with people, whether they use alcohol, use drugs, use food. I think we need to start saying what happened to people. What happened to people? Because people develop coping mechanisms to cope with things that they haven't resolved.
But right now, this very moment, as I'm talking about this, it's nothing to be worried about, right? Nothing to be afraid of. Like, you're quite empowered and calm right now. The problem is, how do we stay there? It's very difficult with life and stress and ongoings. But think about the power in right now.